what must transform in your leadership if you want to take this thing to the next level?
What must transform your leadership to take this to the next level? Who are we talking to?
Entrepreneur who's built a pretty good business, but on the back of like their own, on the back of their own efforts.
Mm-hmm. So the problem they're dealing with is it's all them, it all revolves around them, and they're in this moment where they're trying to elevate up past beyond.
Yeah.
Copy. So this is me coming to you, and this is like kind of like one of my situations too, where it's like me trying to elevate up.
Yeah.
So actually, even talk to me back. Like I assume you give this advice all the time.
Yeah.
What are like the past like 3 conversations? What's like one of the biggest things that you talk about? Start with them. Commonalities between them.
That if they don't shift from the business owner with a bunch of helpers to like a leader who leads other leaders, they will continue to find themselves as the bottleneck.
What's the biggest problem? So why have they become the bottleneck?
They either don't believe in their own leadership abilities or they don't trust that other people can step in to be as good as them. And so they get scared to either let go of the reins or they get scared to lead people the way they would actually need to be led for them to buy back their time as the CEO to actually focus on the most valuable things. Actually, funny enough, this Jeff Bezos video is playing in the background, right? Like a CEO who continues to grow really needs to be doing 3 things: identifying the highest priority activities that they should be doing that will grow the business, drive ruthless execution of the most important things. Most CEOs get caught up in busyness instead of actually driving the business. And then number 3, developing other leaders around them. But most business owners are solopreneurs, so they're used to just, I got it, I'll do it all on my own, which works to 30K, 50K, maybe even 100K a month. But you wake up at some point being like, I can't keep doing all of this. And you start to feel like you're the bottleneck of the business growing to the next level.
And this is what you're talking about too, to me specifically Chipotle, and I think it applies a large part and to me and specifically probably to most that you talk to.
Yeah.
Where it's an identity. You wrap yourself around and there's safety in that identity because as soon as you drop that, shed that, then you're raw. Because the new identity is a leader. You're a CEO now. A CEO doesn't do the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
So you have to elevate.
Yeah, what I found is it reveals 2 things. It reveals, 1, the lack of trust that we actually have in either other people or in ourselves. Do I trust myself to lead this person? Do I trust myself to train this person? Do I trust myself to develop this person? Or we don't trust other people can do it as well as us. So it reveals a trust issue, or it reveals like an identity belief issue. And that is, nobody can do it as good as me. Right? Like, I'm the reason the business has grown. I'm the reason people pay. I'm the reason people want to work here. And there's truth to that in the early stages, but that belief has to shift if someone wants to build a scalable brand, not a freelancer, like project-based business.
So what's the thing, I call it the unlock in these conversations, where, because I assume too, a lot of people won't take advice that you give to them. So what's the one unlock that you would see from the people that do take it and unlock themselves? What's that key?
Yeah, well, there's always psychology before strategy. And so I remember for me, when the unlock happened, is a 9-figure mentor said to me, that's your belief about hiring people? And I said, yeah. And he said, would you like to hear mine? I said, I would like to hear yours. Yeah. And he said, when I hire people, I hire them with the intent that they're going to be as good as me and one day better than me. Whereas I think I can say for myself or other people, we're oftentimes hiring people with the intention or expectation, like, I hope they can do it as good, or I think the real expectation we hire people with is nobody's going to do it as good as me. And if we do, we fall into that belief a lot of times of, if they can do it as 80% as good as me, then it's worth delegating. And there's truth to that principle with some tasks. But I think some entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs that are actually artists, if you know the Tony Robbins avatars of entrepreneurship, most people call themselves entrepreneurs, but they're actually artists. They take a lot of pride in their work. They care about the quality of the product and the delivery, and like the work is their art. Those avatars, I'm one of them, have trouble replacing themselves in those things, because it's like, even if they do it 80% as good as me, I don't accept that. And so that shift helped me a ton. When I hire someone, it's with the intention that it's going to be someone as good as me and one day better than me. So that belief had to change. So there's the psychology of it. But once I have that and had that new psychology, then the strategy on how to do that changed, which was all about selection and systems. So I think most business owners, when they learn how to grow a business, are taught to come up with your ideal client homework. We put so much time and effort in ideal client exercises, but business owners don't put the same amount of intention in ideal candidate homework. Who's the ideal perfect candidate that I'm going to hire? So we can start to fall into everyday beliefs that we hear from people. It's hard to find good work out there. It's hard to find talented people. Is that true? Or is that just crap we hear that gets regurgitated and recycled? If I slow down to get really intentional, kind of like the dream partner list that some people do when they're trying to attract like a lover and a partner. You write down a list of all the characteristics of what you want and what you don't want. What if we did that same exact thing about an ideal candidate? Then we start with the end in mind, and we can write an ad that speaks specifically to that person. If you were to read my EA ad, and I've had some incredible EAs. Now, when I say incredible though, incredible for me, because I know who I'm looking for. Part of my EA ad says, you either need your spice cabinet alphabetized, your closet color coordinated by season, or you own your own label maker. And I can think of some of my best EAs over the last 2 decades. They showed up to the interview like with their label maker and then showing me their closets and stuff like that. But it tells me that they don't just say they're organized, like this is who they are. And so you start with the end in mind, who's the perfect candidate. You write an ad for that person, and then you design your interview process to test for that type of selection. Whether it's putting them in situations, whether it's asking them to do a few things before you ever hire them, so you can start to get a sense of how they think and who they are. Most people just throw a wide net out of, I need a new videographer, I need a coach, I need a salesperson, and that's very generalized, instead of being very intentional and specific about who you want to attract.
Here's a curveball for you. I don't know how you react to this. So one of the hiring pitfalls is, so for a videographer, for example, if you don't even know how to work your iPhone camera, how do you hire for a videographer? So if you're saying hire for the end result, how do you know who you're looking for to craft that? Do you need to go find a professional to just work with for a project to find out what you like? Do you need to like kind of date around? What's a good solution for that?
So the example is I'm hiring for a videographer.
And you know nothing about video. So how do you find the person good for it when you don't know what the person should be good at?
Yeah. Well, there's 2 beliefs about this. A lot of times in entrepreneurship, you'll hear people say like, don't hire until you're proficient at the thing. And so if this was an example, for me in my business, it's like, sometimes I don't think people should hire for a messenger or setter person until they have a general proficiency of what good messenger or setter like skills are. So they know how to identify, right, what is good or what is bad. Now, do I think someone has to become masterful at a skill before, but proficient enough to the point where they can identify good or bad? If I'm not in that position, you're always sacrificing one of like 3-ish things when hiring. You're either sacrificing time, so you're paying for skill right away. You're sacrificing time, right? Like I might have to train this person over a long enough period of time, or you're sacrificing like your own effort and energy that you might have to pour into something. The reason I say that is because if I don't know how to identify good in that thing, I'm probably going to sacrifice dollars. Meaning I'm willing to pay more to attract someone that I know has the reputation and has the track record of like, I might not know what good looks like, but they have the results. Everybody else says they're really good or something like that. And so using a setter as an example, I know business owners that they want to pay on the lower end for the setter. So what are they going to pay with? They're going to pay with time and experience, right? That setter might suck for a little bit. You might have to keep training and developing. Versus I know some other people, they'll pay 3 times more than I know other people pay for a setter. And they're paying $2-3K as a base per month instead of $500. But then they have a killer come in right away. And so it's just which one do you want to sacrifice when it comes to who you're hiring?
Yeah, that's really interesting too, because then there's two businesses. So there's the business that hires the setter and trains them, and then there's the business that uses the other businesses as the training model.
Yeah.
To then hire those people out of.
Correct.
Do you feel like you have to go through phase one of that business to be the business that trains them, or do you make a risk with assets being money in this situation to just go right for it?
Well, I think a lot of businesses do have to be the first version because they don't have the money.
Just period.
Yeah, just period to do it. So therefore, by default, they have to trade and pay off in experience and time. But if someone's more established, or they left the corporate world with cash in a bank account to start a business, cool, then maybe they have the dollars they can sacrifice. But that's what I meant by you're always like sacrificing one of those two-ish or three-ish things, right? Like I'm either paying with experience and we're figuring it out together, paying with time and just how much time I'm training the person. But if I pay someone who has a lot of track record, I might not need as much time to develop the person. And so you're always paying with one of them.
Makes sense, makes sense. Where do you want to go from here?
Trust about money, and then delegating outcome over tasks.
You want to get a little woo-woo? You want to go in?
Yeah, we can go trust. Yeah.
So tell me even about your upbringing. Where did you learn trust? What was one of your biggest unlocks?
Where did I learn trust? Where did I learn not to trust people? Trust has been an ongoing battle and transformation in my own personal development.
Okay.
Yeah. And a great mentor of mine started to instill in the business world of mine. He would say, "How do you know, or how do you learn how to trust someone?"
Yeah.
And his answer was always, "You trust them." And so I think sometimes it's like, I'm going to test them and wait until they earn my trust. Don't get me wrong. There's certain things that we let them demonstrate a higher level of trust before I just give them access to my bank account or something like that, or before I truly trust them with every task. There is micromanaging people until trust is earned, but showing up, telling the person, I hired you because I trust you. The best way to see if you can trust somebody is to trust them. And so that's one like shift in thinking that I developed. But then there's a much deeper internal fear of trust, because somebody could tell you that all day. Like the best way to trust someone is to trust them. And in your mind, you're like, I get it. And then like your entire nervous system locks up, or it's like, I don't feel like I can. And then we grasp on really tight. So there's that side of trusting as well. Not just trusting in the person, a lot of times trusting in the releasing of money. I love this one concept that some people say is like, one reason most business owners don't make more money is because they don't realize that you have to release money to receive more money. Right? It's like the whole concept of you can't receive from a clenched fist, right? It's like if you're clenching on to the 20K, 50K a month that you've developed, right? This is my money. Well, that's fine. That gets to be your money, but it's also hard to receive what's next when you're clenching on. The visual I always use when I say that is like, if money started just falling from the sky right now, how much money could I catch if I was like this? I'd be like with my mouth open, right? Like trying to grab dollars like this. But if I had my hands open, I can receive so much more money at the same time. And so there's the trusting of, when I let these dollars go, I trust that more is always coming back to me. I trust that every investment I make in my business, 2X's, 3X's, or 5X's, because I choose to make great decisions and investments. I choose, right, that the more I put out into the world, the more that comes back. I choose to focus that this isn't a cost, like I'm spending money. I choose to see it as an investment in other human beings that I get to provide for, and they're putting food on the tables of their kids. They're then using it on vacations to see their mom. And so it reminds me that money, hence why it's called currency, is meant to cycle and circulate, which then puts me into a state of abundant choosing and abundant decision making, which is very different than, oh my gosh, what if I hire this person and we lose all our money and we go backwards, which the...
I think you're going to have a special guest join you.
Want to come in here, baby?
I'm going to say something. We're about to go on a walk, so if you finish early enough...
Well, we're about to wrap the last one, so if you want to record one, Kate has to leave in a bit here, so you have to be ready in like 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay? All right, see you in a little bit.
Word on the street is you have a podcaster in the house that's going to teach you how to do this in a couple of years.
Yeah. What was I saying?
Currency is flowing just what it is, just currency.
Yeah, so
Put yourself in a state of abundance because you're sharing, because you're trusting.
yeah. And so, there comes a point where an entrepreneur has to recognize that the dollars that are going out is part of dollars flowing in. And something for me that helped me understand that is Parkinson's law.
Okay.
Have you heard of Parkinson's law? Parkinson's law is that things will fill to the capacity that we leave for something. So for example, the analogy I'll use is, if you remember back in high school or college, if a test or a paper was due on Tuesday at 6 p.m., when were you cramming till?
Today at
5:59, right? If that same test was due on Monday at 6 o'clock, you would find a way to fill all the cramming and get the paper. And so that's an example of like, we will fill to the capacity that we leave for something. And so instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna hire these people, and what if we don't make the dollars back for it? The realization that as I'm expanding the organization, I'm gonna find a way to fill to it. So I remember hiring a fourth coach in one of my coaching businesses, but we didn't quite have the inflow of clients to fill their roster. And I was like, so I'm gonna be paying for this, but I'm paying for the future. And in my mind, I was like, I don't know if it's worth to pay for it, because based on our current trajectory, it might take 6 to 12 months to fill their roster, but I'm paying them fill in the blank per month. But we made the decision to bring on the fourth coach, and we filled her roster in just shy of like 90 days. And it was just a reminder to me that like, once I expand for something, we find a way to fill it. Kind of like if you lived in a 1-bedroom apartment for a short period of time, or for a long period of time, and then you move into a 4-bedroom house. At first you're like, very quickly, you find a way to fill each of those rooms. And that's Parkinson's law. And when we can remember that and recognize that more, we can kind of allow ourselves to step out of this scarcity, what if I hire and I can't fill it mode, instead of trusting as I expand, I will expand with it.
Yeah. What would you say is, okay, so under this scenario, what would you say, and I think this even will hit close to home because I think this is a scenario you went through. So maybe you could coach through from personal experience. When putting out, so someone's coming to you to help coaching through this, and they're hearing this scenario, they're like, I've already spent 10K, 20K, 30K on something, got nothing back, and you can just feel it in their energy of like, I've tried that, I've done it.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
What's the problem? Maybe it's more of a root problem there.
Yeah.
And I said it's close to home too, because I know your story about spending all you did on coaching and getting $1,500 back.
Yeah.
So is there something root underneath that goes deeper into trust, that they kind of did the dance just to do the dance without doing the thing underneath to then do the dance, if that makes sense?
Tony Robbins at Date with Destiny has an entire day called Relationship Day. And he teaches what is the number one key to a successful relationship.
Okay.
And most people, you think, say what? Communication.
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah.
Right? And all those things. It's not the number one key, according to this training at least. That is far from the number one key to success of a successful relationship. And he goes on to help people understand the number one key to success of a successful relationship is proper selection. But most people select based on convenience, proximity, and chemistry, right? And a lot of times, like chemistry when we're drunk, or chemistry, and so we then make proximity, select, right? And so why am I using that as an example? Is because not enough people see hiring or choice of personnel as a skill set. They just create global beliefs then of there's no good people out there, right? Or all agencies suck. Imagine if we were in the dating world and we woke up, and I think this is a projection, but I think a lot of men and women, girls and boys, by the time they're 22, 25, et cetera, and they've had a few heartbreaks underneath them or whatever, they're like, all men are fill in the blank.
Yes.
There's no good blank out there. Instead of recognizing, maybe I haven't mastered the art of selection yet, discernment, filtering and understanding. Maybe that means I haven't gotten clear in my filtering process of who I'm actually looking for. Maybe that means I haven't learned the eye of what I'm actually looking for. Maybe I haven't learned to listen to my body on like, this was a good selection or not a good selection. And so your question was, what would I say to someone who feels like they've tried to hire people or they've tried to invest in, I got nothing out of it. That's not That doesn't automatically mean hiring is bad. That means you haven't mastered or developed the skill of leadership, selection, and team building yet. The same way, if someone said, I'm never dating ever again, that doesn't mean marriage is bad. That doesn't mean relationships are bad. Maybe they just haven't developed the mindset or the characteristics or the skill sets to be the type of person to attract a great relationship. And so that's what I would tell them. And I would say that firsthand because I remember my very first business, I was 22, 23 years old, and it was like a Saturday night. It was the end of a long work week. I had one employee. And this employee, Michael, his name was Michael, walks into my office, and it was like late at night, dark, and I could tell he had something to tell me. And I was like, what's up? He goes, I'm quitting. And I go, okay, would you mind sharing why? And he goes, honestly, because you're kind of an asshole. And so the reason I share that is because I could have been like, yeah, hiring people's hard, hiring people sucks. No, I just hadn't become the type of a leader that great people either want to work with or want to continue to work with, or the ability to develop great leaders. And I'll close this point out in saying it's one of the biggest things I see small business entrepreneurs cap the growth of their business with, and then they start being like, I need a new ad strategy, I need a new content strategy, I need to do blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, what if you also, at the same time, were learning how to go from the leader with a dozen helpers, right? Which is just like cycling through helpers and contractors, and to actually developing yourself into the founder who builds a board of leaders and a board of executives, because one builds a much different type of business that can both scale to higher levels, but also run with or without the CEO. The leader with a dozen helpers is still the dancing bear. They need to show up and they need to make every decision. The business runs through them, which at some point becomes the bottleneck of the business to either grow financially or to grow into the freedom and lifestyle the founder really wants, because they're still attached to everything.
Okay, I want to do two things. I want to go deeper into energy first. Let's go to that tangent. But I also want to come back because I remember you said in the other video we did, you were defining helpers and producers. I think those are two different things. So we'll define those. So first, going back to energy. So what's this is where we'll probably go a little bit more woo with it. And this is probably something you see in your event specifically, where like maybe someone brought themselves, but they've been trapped in the energy of it's like the self-fulfilling prophecy, the relationship dating game again, where they're going on the scene, they're all men are garbage, but for some reason there's that core belief of like, I want a relationship. So I'm still going to be in the market, but I'm coming out with these fangs of all men are garbage. But like that little girl inside is still like begging, like just please go try again. What's the unlock to push someone out of that? Is there something to do? Is it talking about your habits again? Is it getting serious with that? Is it connecting to breath? Like what's the energetic thing that helps people just escape?
Two things. Without going super woo, but also woo at the same time, like is a leader willing to look within themselves on where they fear actually leading other people? Because using the relationship analogy you just said, I like to operate that I am fully responsible for everything I create in my own life. That can be hard sometimes when you've dealt with a lot of BS, but I strive to live a life where I take full responsibility for everything that happens in my life. So if I was that person, guy or girl, that's like, all men suck or all women suck, it's like, okay, and where am I responsible for attracting that? And deep down inside, it might be, do I fear that I'm good enough of being loved, so therefore I'm attracting people who don't love me for who I am? Do I not love myself for who I am? And so if I don't love myself unconditionally for who I am, how am I supposed to, I'm trying to fill a void with somebody else. They said there's only two core wounds that all human beings have. Inadequacy, which is the one I just touched on. Am I actually good enough to attract? And the other one is abandonment. And so if deep down inside, I fear being abandoned, but it goes unresolved, unhealed. I'm going to keep attracting relationships that leave so I could prove to myself, see, all men leave. And so the woo part is, let's bring it back to business and leadership. Where am I not developing the trust that I am worthy and deserving of people following? Where do I fear? What if I build this business and then people leave? Abandonment. What if I build this business and then they take my clients? What if, so there still is that underlying, trust is a common theme here around leadership, right? Where is that underlying limiting belief? If we don't even want to call it a trauma or a trigger, just like where is that limiting belief around I'm deserving of being followed or a fear of people are going to leave? So that's the first thing, is addressing those types of beliefs. And then the second side of it, back to the relationship analogy, have I developed myself into the type of person that attracts a great relationship? But with leadership, it's like, if I was to boil down leadership, if I become the type of person that inspires someone else, that they go, when I'm around her, when I'm around him, I want to be a better version of myself. If we were to boil leadership down to that, like who I am influences other people to want to be better, people will want to follow. Have I become that type of person? And if not, right, I can hire helpers, but I very rarely am going to attract people who want to follow, and I'm going to develop other leaders if I haven't become that, because I think great leadership is people wanting to follow because of, I believe, three things. Shared vision. They go, I believe in the world you want to create. Shared values. I believe in the world you want to create and how you want to create it, and being around you or this organization will make me a better person because we both value the same thing, right? Some companies value work, everything, and win at all costs. Some value, right, health at the same time and growth or whatever it is. So shared vision, shared values, shared vulnerability. I feel comfortable to grow here, to bring all of myself forward, to share ideas. You create an environment where those three things, there's an aligned vision with shared values and a space where people feel like they can grow, people will want to follow. So to bring it full circle, is a leader willing to look within themselves and not blame the external world? It's Indeed and the industry and the economy, and say, have I become the type of person that people, great people, A players, are willing to follow?
I like that. Going back from, okay, so Michael coming into your office Saturday night, what takes you, or what reflection, in your reflections, what has been the big three things, and maybe it's that, just establishing those 3 points, to take you from where you were then, where you just sucked to work for, versus now building all the success you have in all the different niches, industries, businesses. What has been the big things? Has it been those 3 things where you're establishing those?
I mean, those are, no, some of what I just shared are more like advanced later parts of the journey. That 23-year-old version, when Michael walks in and quits and says, because you're kind of an asshole, I became obsessed afterwards with what does it actually mean to be a leader. And so I remember, and this will date me a little bit, there was a late night infomercial of Tony Robbins selling his Power Talk, I think it was called, CDs, right? Not streaming, nothing. Like he was selling his CDs, and I had a 6 CD changer in my car at the time. And I made a promise to myself. I don't even think I told anybody. I made a promise to myself that until I become the type of leader that can grow an organization that does $1 million in a year, I do not put any music in that 6 CD changer. And I just cycled through these Tony Robbins CDs. Not for a week, not for a month, not for a quarter. From the time I bought those till I had my first $1 million year was 3 years. And so when I say I became obsessed with like learning what influence is and learning what leadership is and everything like that, I would not let myself put music in the 6 CD changer until I had $1 million year. And then I became obsessed with books on leadership as well. Wooden, Maxwell, Jim Rohn, what I would call the OGs of that type of stuff, Brian Tracy. And at the end of the day, leadership has a lot of principles. It's not necessarily an art, like that someone has to be born with some magical talents to be a great leader. Leadership can be learned. Leadership is a set of values and principles that when someone understands it, can grow and learn to become a great leader.
I like it. let's go back up to the helpers. So first define to me, what's the difference between a helper and a producer? So now you've gotten past the stage, you're now feeling pretty confident about your leadership skills, you have some more capital to work with, you're able to hire, you're able to take some time with it. What's the difference between hiring a helper and a producer?
Tasks versus outcomes.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times when we hire, we start to assign tasks. I need you to do this. I need you to do this. But the higher level, like the more effectiveness of a hire of a team member is when you can outsource outcomes, not just tasks getting done. Whether it's growing revenue, whether it's hiring and recruiting and developing team members, right? Versus at first it's like, hey, can you write this ad for me? Or can you send 50 messages? But a lot of times on the lower level of hires or the lower level of leadership, we're outsourcing tasks versus outcomes. And that's when a lot of times CEOs feel like they still can't remove themselves from the organization because they don't trust that the person's gonna actually get the outcome. They're still micromanaging the task, but they don't always know if the outcome is gonna get done, or they're not sure yet if the outcome is gonna get done the way they wanna see it done. Whether it's product, whether it's delivery, whether it's sales results. And what I say to that person is like, once again, are you able and willing to develop the skill of developing leaders then? I'll share an example. I hired an EA and I asked her to do the task of booking me an Airbnb. She was like a 22-year-old out of college. Here I am, I had run a handful of businesses, and it's the week before the event, and we're reviewing like my rental car and everything. I say, show me the Airbnb we got. And she pulls it up and I go, I will not stay there, right? I was like, what the hell are there windows at this place? Like what made you think I would stay there? And I could have blamed her and faulted her, but what I realized is that I assigned a task that didn't create a playbook that gets the outcome that I want, which means I didn't teach her how to think. I didn't, what I think some book calls it DOD. I didn't have a definition of done. And so what did we do? We created an SOP of booking Michael's travel things. Does Michael prefer an aisle seat or a window seat? Does he prefer closer to the plane or back of the plane, in front of a toilet or not in front of it? And we put all those features in there. So I'm not just assigning a task, I'm assigning how I think about the task. If a flight is only $100 cheaper or $100 more expensive, but I don't have to wake up at 5 a.m., I'd rather go there. Like every little preference like that is put in an SOP. Examples of the types of Airbnbs I would choose: lighter, airier, right? By water, stuff like that. And so do we develop systems that teach people how to do a task, or do we develop systems that teach people how to think? Because when you can outsource thinking, you can outsource decisions. And when you can outsource decisions, you free up the CEO's mental bandwidth to think about the most important things. I'll start to end with this. It's like, I think it's Obama had a whole talk about decision fatigue, which is why he always tried to have his outfit and what he was going to eat the next day planned out for him or planned out ahead of time. Because even the little decision making of this shirt or this shirt in the morning compounded over all the big decisions the leader of the free world has to make. He wanted to free up as much of his bandwidth to make the most important decisions. And that's what a CEO or a founder is really supposed to be doing. Identifying the highest priority, focuses, and making decisions to drive those outcomes.
And that's even like a little bit of conditioning too, like the picking of your clothes example in the morning. Because if you start your day and you're conditioning yourself like, red, blue, fuck, does that match with jeans, cargo pants? You're conditioning yourself in that moment to be like indecisive, I don't know. Then when you go to make a business decision, your brain's already kind of in that pattern where it's like, it doesn't have the reassurance that I've done this. I've done this.
Yeah. When I was growing Champ Dev and I knew I hadn't developed like a board of leaders around me to make all those decisions, I wore a white shirt to work every day for 4 straight, maybe 5 straight years. Actually, it might have been longer if I really go back and look at the exact date. Like if you're gonna go to my closet right now, there's a whole section of my closet that's just white t-shirts that all look the same, white V, right? Because then I wouldn't have to think about what to wear. I'd have to ask Kayla to confirm. I think only in the last 2 years have I shifted onto like brighter colored shirts because it represents more of the energy I want to bring to the world right now. But in the stages of growing Champ Dev, you watch any module record, a recording of any group call, I am in a white shirt or a white t-shirt every single time because I wanted to minimize decision fatigue.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned CEO a couple times too. This is kind of personal. So what, if any, actually maybe you don't even define it this way. So that's question one. And then question two is what would be the defining factors if you define this way? Do you see CEO and owner being different things? So when we talk about there, CEOs are the people that can be pulled out of tasks. So you're applying tasks to a role. So like this is your task versus this is the decision I want you to be making. That's the CEO to be looking over top of that. Is there another layer on top of it where it's owner of like just being pulled out of the business?
Yeah.
And what is the maybe unlock from someone to go from CEO after they figure out the decisions to then owner?
Yeah. I think it depends on business size. Yeah. Most small businesses, 500K to 2 mil, let's just call it, right? The owner is probably the CEO still.
Yeah.
And does there come a point where the owner probably shouldn't always be the CEO anymore, right? Maybe they are the visionary, but they're not the best executor. They're not the best leader of leaders and stuff like that. So I think there's many of situations or positions where the founder or owner no longer needs to be the CEO.
Yeah.
If they want to hold on to the title of CEO just for the sake of titles, then I think they go from they go from CEO to really becoming more of the owner. And then that's where the concept of owner operator comes into place. So they might hold on to the title of CEO, but the person really operating the business is now the COO or a chief of staff possibly or something like that.
So this is kind of too, so like we're talking about the identity shifts. So we went from level one, so this is cool because now there's like 3 levels of it. Level one is like being in operation. You are the person doing everything. The business only exists because you do everything. So then moving into more of the CEO, you're leading the team doing the things. So it's a phase system to go from CEO then to owner because this is probably the level of people you really deal with right now. But like they are the CEOs of like $1 million businesses.
Yeah.
And now it's the identity of being like, I can go from 40 hours to like 30, and that's okay. I don't have to refill that time.
Yeah.
It is just that phasing.
Correct.
Are you seeing that with some of your CEOs?
Yeah. I mean, we have a client right now. She's never done $1 million in her business in a year. And yet she is selling her company right now for just shy of $1 million cash offer.
Hell yeah.
Right? Well, why am I using that as a reference point? Because someone doesn't buy a business if it's completely key man risked to the CEO. And so I'm really proud of this person because she built her business not just to be like, I did $1 million. She built her business to be predictable and scalable through other people. To the point where for the last 2, maybe 3 years, she's gone on a 60 to 90 day world vacation. And a vacation where she truly is like, I'm not doing anything in the business. And the business continues to run and continues to grow. During those periods of time. And so that's an example of someone going from like operator to actual CEO to like remove from the business in a way that can run through others. But going back to that trust piece to your point where there's phases, that's a great framework to think about how trust is always needing to be developed as the business grows, right? Because at first when we delegate, it's easy to have trust because more times than not, we're delegating the shit we don't like to do. How much trust does that require? It's like, I'm not even good at it anyways, right? Then we start delegating the things we're pretty good at. That requires a different level of trust. Then we delegate the things that we feel like we're actually the best at. Now that's one layer of trust, but then it resets and it has another tier. Why? Because then at some point, I have to hire the person who's managing the person doing the thing. That's a whole nother level of trust. And then if you think about it at a third tier, at some point we're trusting that we're hiring the person who is selecting the person who's managing the person doing the thing. Like you talk about layers of being removed from control and layers of remove of you better be doing it my way. And once again, back to that foundation of leadership is also an internal game or battle even of being willing to look at one's levels of trust. That's a great framework to just point out like leadership is letting go. Leadership is trust. And to trust, you have to know that you have the right systems. You know, you've developed the systems that teach people that's able to, I think someone calls it the 3 Ds, like when I get to the point where I can trust that I've let go of something, I trust that I've done the preparation. Right? A lot of people are just like, just trust and let go. No, well, have I also put in the effort to build the assets that I can trust that I can let this go through the 3Ds? I've demonstrated it enough myself, right? Recordings of me doing sales calls, recordings of me doing coaching calls, so that the demonstration of me doing the thing can be documented. Now it's documented how I think, why I said the things I did, right, et cetera, in such a way that you can duplicate yourself of someone not just saying the right words, but oh, notice how he says it. Notice how he asks here. Notice, right? And so you demonstrate enough till it can be documented and so you can duplicate yourself. Then I'm like, okay, I do trust letting go because I've created a framework. I've created a playbook. I've created a guide on how someone can be as good as me, if not better. Pair that with selection, right selection with right systems, boom.
Yeah, because the only way you can mess it up is if you select wrong, because then they're just special needs.
Yeah.
They just can't do it because they are that type of person.
Now I know I've selected the wrong person because I have the right systems. Yeah. Sometimes we hire really talented people and it reveals to us you still didn't give them the tools to be successful.
Okay. That makes sense. All right, so get vulnerable with me for a second, because we're talking about trust, and the reason you can speak about all this so confidently and be such an amazing coach is because you walked through each of these phases yourself.
Yeah.
Done the fuck ups, went back, probably fucked up again, went back again, then got 2 levels up, fucked up, went back again, the same iteration, same people are going through the same phases right now to get up to $1 million. So at the phase that you're at right now, what are the things that you're having to retrust? So the same way you're talking about, like, you have to let go of the trust, get up to that next level, reveals a whole new stack. Where are you right now in the things that you're having to do inside of yourself internally with whatever stack you're dealing with?
I did this once in a business about 10 years ago, and I'm repeating it now in this business. Actually, just this past Wednesday, I had a conversation with a team member about letting go of the reins of the CEO functions. And they will step in and run and grow the business. Now, I'm not going to step away from the business. We are just going to recreate what the CEO role is more as the owner. Right now in this business, I'm the owner operator. I've run the leadership meetings. I've planned the leadership meetings. I run the team meetings. I run the stuff like that. But if I was operating, funny to use the word operating, but if I was being the owner, I would, for me in this business, I think of Dana White, and he gets interviewed sometimes, like, what are your roles in growing the UFC? And he's always been able to just label off, in this season of the growth of business, I only do 3 things and nothing else. One of them is star building. Like, it's his gift to develop the Conor McGregors and the Ronda Rouseys and stuff like that. Partnerships, I think, is another one, and stuff like that. Like, that's his thing. For me in this business, it's coaching, because I still love the art of coaching, creation, podcast, content, stuff like that, and community building. But anything and everything else, I am in conversations with someone right now to actually take over the executive operation of the business, hiring, overseeing finances, decision-making, and stuff like that. And all I do is those 3 things. Now, to your original question, I've been operating this business truly full-time since mid-2018. So that's 7, 8 years. Well, they say life cycles are 7, 8 years, which is why a lot of CEOs in corporate are oftentimes encouraged to take a sabbatical every 5 to 7 years or so, if they're going to stay in the role, to kind of reset. But yeah, I mean, does it feel scary? Do I feel, even in my body right now, parts of me like, where do I have to look within myself where I feel scared? Or where I'm not trusting, or I haven't developed good enough systems, or I believe that I'm the only one who knows how to do blank. That's what I'm working through right now in this business.
What are some of the practices you're using?
Specifically around the deep, like, oh man, like I feel like a pit in my stomach around that. Those specifically for me are more somatic practices. Like, that's not, I'm gonna go listen to a podcast to try and like get through that. For me, I'm gonna go sit with a somatic coach. I just did this the other day for 2 hours actually around parts of where I wasn't taking full ownership. And I was like, I preach ownership, but why am I feeling like, and so I'll sit down, and it's so revealing when we can just allow ourselves to be slow enough and to be present enough to name, like, why am I feeling, not just why, but like, what am I noticing? Yeah, it feels really scary. And I think as a man, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, I've spent many years of my 20s being like, yep, I feel scared. Let's get back to work. Right? And I think there's times and stages and ages, right? In my mid 20s, at the age and the stage I was at, that was the way to rock.
Yeah.
I also think that's why I woke up at 30 having made millions on my bathroom floor, drinking too much, riddled with anxiety, and because I just kept shoving the feelings down in the name of just getting back to work. I'm now a believer that what we resist persists. So I'm resisting the stress, I'm resisting the fear, it's all there, but I'm resisting it. What we resist persists. A lot of people don't say the rest of what I think that quote is though. What we resist persists until it expands and one day explodes. And for me, it exploded in my early 30s, right? Divorce, leaving home, like my family and I, like in turmoil with each other. And even though I had done everything on paper that a oldest son of a Chinese family growing up in right? Got the grades, graduated from college, young executive as sales company, made $1 million. Like, even though I had done all of those things, I know this sounds like one of those cheesy things people say after they've made some money, but I had made a lot of money and I had a drawer of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 watches rattling around in a nightstand, like all the things that I thought would mean like I was successful, and I didn't know myself. Sounds dramatic to say I was miserable because on the outside, I was traveling to 5 different countries a year and partying in Vegas and da-da-da-da-da or whatever. But on the inside, now that I know today what it feels like to feel my feelings and to be in touch with my heart, I didn't know myself and I was miserable. Like manically miserable in resistance to my own reality. And I think that's when people go manic, is when they're in resistance to any part of the life that actually is in reality. And that's where I was at that stage.
Well, as a compliment, I'll give you, I think it's really cool because you've done the work to expel that and give yourself the space within inside.
Yeah.
That now you get to be that vessel for others, where others see you and it's like, it's just a breath. And then you can connect to them on that level and you can essentially just show them a North Star, like, it doesn't have to be that way, man. So to round out this conversation on trust and opening up and vulnerability and talking about everyone at their stages, how they have to evolve out of these different identities from phase 1, operator, phase 2, CEO, letting go of phase 2 into owner, kind of where you are right now in this phase. Again, dropping back into your situation, what do you think is, so we've talked about the vulnerabilities, kind of the stuff that's like more tense and what leaves you with that gut pressure. What on the other side is the thread of excitement that you're following that is leading you in the direction you are?
Yeah. You said earlier, and then I'll answer that question, about because I've done the work, I can be a model for other people. I just wanted to speak to that for a second because I think for about 10 years, maybe longer, I repeated the famous Tony Robbins quote of success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I think I repeated that quote because it was fucking cute to say, not because I actually believed like what that meant, or nor was I living intentionally to it, or I believed that fulfillment meant the external things that I thought success brought, right? Whether it was cars or travel or trips or watches or money or whatever it is. To then realize, and I think this is something that I think people might think people who have made money just say, to then realize I really was successful on paper and I had no idea who I was. And I was, by definition, now that I can look back and recognize it, I was miserable. And then I remember just not too long ago, I was with a friend and I said, at that time, I thought peace was this thing you just saw on like a Beatles record, or they just sang about in songs like that from the 70s. And it was one of the most like beautiful, profound moments of the personal development side of being a leader. And I said to my friend, I said, I think I actually know what peace feels like today. And it doesn't mean I don't have days where I'm anxious, stressed, worried, scarce, or etc. But through work and through the right practices and through the right breath, I find it so fulfilling. Actually, funny enough to that Tony Robbins quote, to know how to return my emotional state, my nervous system back to a place of peace. And the 25-year-old macho beer drinking version of me, if he ever heard the 40-year-old version of me today saying these things, I think he would have been like, that is so fucking soft. And I think for whoever needs to hear this, for me, just my story, I think it's also really cool that as I started doing that work, I didn't start making less money, I started making more money. And I say that because I think a version of me at one point would have been like, that shit's so soft, you gotta just hustle. Right? And then the quote that summarizes all of it for me, at least in my journey, and however this resonates with somebody, is the more I've lowered my shield, in other words, being willing to be vulnerable or do the work or whatever you want, the more I've lowered my shield, the sharper my swords become. And I used to think lowering your shield just meant soft and vulnerable, and like now you're filling the word with, fill in the blank with whatever words would describe that from some fraternity 20-year-old asshole, right? And so whoever needed to hear that, or if there's one person that message lands with, is success without fulfillment, I now do believe is the ultimate failure. And you can have massive success and peace and purpose, and it's a beautiful freaking thing. So.
And to translate for everyone that's not here in the room, that doesn't feel the literal energy as you speak that, it's beautiful because when you say, it's funny too, the quote that you said like in your 20s, you didn't understand it, but you just kept on saying it. When you say peace today, there's a calm, a frequency that like literally is vibrating off of you, just here. Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah. All right, so to prompt you then with that last second part, the excitement part, what's the thread that you're following?
Yeah. My new definition of success. Only in the last 30 days, I've been really thinking about this next chapter of my life. And it didn't start with, it came through exploration. Like, okay, so how do I define success in this next chapter? And right now for me, the string of excitement that's really pulling me is my definition of success today is that when all three of my kids are adult age, because of the space, the relationship, the connection, and who we supported them in being, they would or will want to raise their families around wherever Kayla and I are. Now, there'll always be a choice. If they feel called to go live in, some other continent and do work there, amazing. But the relationship we have, they will want to keep bringing their families back and spend time. So it's created this vision for me, no matter where Kayla and I end up, there will be properties bought for all three of my kids that they will have choice to raise their families at those properties of one. So like Kayla and I will have home base here, whether it's in Hawaii, Florida, here, Texas, wherever, and all the kids will have a property within walking or driving, wherever we end up being, that they could, if they wanted, raise their family around us. And so for me, I know that there's a lifestyle of the leader I'm becoming, financial path to creating that, and everything from there. So I did.
Speaking of that, strange success.
There you are.
That was like 20 minutes.
You were. And then.
You said 5 minutes.
Well, are you ready?
Yeah.
We can just roll
Want to run one? Want to run one podcast? You cool with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, Press, come sit in the chair.
Can I go get my sheet?
Go grab your notes. You're not going to necessarily read off of them. I'm going to prompt you. Okay? Take your helmet off. I don't think you need your helmet on in the podcast.